I myself, I'm a mum. I had a crisis pregnancy back in 1990, and I gave birth in 1991 at age 15. So I'm a crisis pregnancy survivor. My daughter got married there at Christmas. I have a grandson, he's 7.5, and I have a 9-year-old daughter. I went into nursing back in 2003. 2005 was when I started my nursing training, so I've worked in intellectual disability, young chronic disabled, general nursing, cardiac, ICU. Then I decided to become a midwife a few years ago. I had lost 2 children. I buried 2 children, one in 2006 and one in 2007. Nothing to do with any diagnosis. One was 37 weeks and he was stillborn, and the other one was 17 weeks and just fetal demise, no reason. So the same day, a year apart exactly. So, you know, I've kind of seen pregnancy from a personal point of view from every angle myself as well. I was treated remarkably well by my consultant down in the Coombe, and also by the midwife Paula, who delivered my son in 2006. So, you know, it's been a long journey, the road to becoming a midwife, but when I made the decision, I really went into it with my eyes wide open. In college, we learn about the best way to treat everybody in this country, the ideal way that women should be allowed to listen to their bodies, to give them time to give birth, and then we start working in the hospitals. And it's a conveyor belt system. So it's kind of a bit of a shock to us as midwives, having been able to, you know, give our general patients, so my male patients, for example, you know, you'd be in the general hospital and surgery and all the rest, and there'd be no great hurry on you to get them in and get them out. Whereas in Irish maternity services, that's actually very different. We are so limited with our facilities here. Anyway, deciding to join Midwives for Choice was a very easy choice for me. I just want to apologise to Annette and everybody else that has gone on similar journeys, that I myself as a healthcare professional have not been able or allowed to provide care. And I think it's very important to note that many of us really feel so guilty that we are not allowed to care for the entire population here. And it's certainly not what I signed up for. Everybody needs to be included, nobody can be left behind, and that's my opinion. Since its introduction in 1983, the 8th Amendment has created an environment where responsibility of control for the pregnant woman is in the hands of us, the healthcare providers. For practicing midwives, such as me, this is quite a scary position to be in. It's a form of power that's not warranted, and nor should it be wanted. It can lead to an environment of fear for both the pregnant woman and her midwife by creating an unbalanced dynamic that is not collaborative, as it should be. This immediately ameliorates when the authority and responsibility is placed where it belongs, with the pregnant woman, in an informed setting where she can make choices in her own best interests with the support of her midwife and doctors. The 8th Amendment to the Constitution of Ireland places equal value on the lives of both the woman who is pregnant and the fetus she is carrying. It means that the state acknowledges the right to life of the unborn with due regard to the equal right of life of the mother, guarantees in its laws to respect and, as far as practical, to defend and vindicate that right. Every year in Ireland, approximately 60,000 people give birth. The 8th Amendment impacts on each of those births, pregnancies, labours, deliveries. It impacts on them by substantially eroding their rights to bodily autonomy. And since 1983, it has impacted upon the approximately 2 million, give or take 100,000 births, and has forced approximately 180,000 people to leave their own country for healthcare. I don't know why we have such a disbelief in ourselves as women here in this country, but you know, it goes back a very long time. I know my own mother, who 43, 42 and 39 years ago gave birth, still cries today about her pregnancies, labours, and particularly inductions of labour and delivery. In fact, she has often said, they treated me like a piece of meat. I still hear the same stories coming back to me every single day. So, since the introduction of the 8th Amendment, things appear to have, not improved. It's useful to explore what human rights in healthcare actually means, how they apply during pregnancy and during childbirth. Bodily autonomy is key to a human rights framework for healthcare. It allows us to make decisions about what is best for our own well-being based on information provided to us by our healthcare providers. For midwives, it allows us to do our job. The word midwife means with woman, not some women, with woman. We are there to assist them, to inform them, to advocate for them and for the good of them and their babies. But we don't get to look after all of the women here in this country. That basic human rights should be afforded to every person are detailed in the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Ireland has obligations to women under this declaration that are not being fulfilled and cannot be fulfilled as long as the 8th Amendment prevails. Adopting a human rights framework in maternity health care allows for dignity, respect and safety to be delivered to every woman during her pregnancy, and importantly allows for legal recourse in the event that this does not happen. In pregnancy, it includes all women and seeks to accommodate all choices. Those who choose to go to the hospital, those who are in greater numbers these days turning away from hospital and looking for different options. Obstetric-based services, home births, midwifery-led units, birth centres. There's only 2 midwifery-led units here in this country, in the Republic of Ireland, and there's no birth centres. So there really is no great choice. A woman cannot be told that regardless of her birth experience, the only thing that really matters is that she and her baby are alive. Any environment where this happens is one where disrespectful and potentially abusive care towards women in pregnancy and childbirth are also possible. While the 8th Amendment remains a part of its constitution, Ireland unfortunately creates such an environment. A human rights framework for pregnancy and birth means that a pregnant woman is not just seen as a vessel, she remains a person in her own right and not just a means to production of her baby, whose interests can be subordinate to the needs of the fetus. Human rights are predicated on respect for the decision a person makes, because only upon respecting each other's free will can we respect one another as human beings. During pregnancy and childbirth, as in elsewhere, this means respecting a woman's decisions. This is incredibly important because the 2 things that really matter to women during pregnancy and childbirth are a supportive, respectful relationship with their midwife or doctor and a sense of control. This doesn't mean that things can't deviate from a plan. Things change all the time. It just means that a woman has to be consulted, give proper informed consent, and continues to be a decision maker in their own care as events unfold. I have never, in all my years of being a nurse and indeed midwife, not had a moment to find the time to explain to somebody, even in an emergency situation. There's a moment, and that moment where seeking proper consent can make all of the difference to a woman retelling their birth story as horrific, or actually they knew what happened, they understood, it made that difference to them. Sorry. Once you become pregnant in Ireland, the state has regarded the right to life of the unborn. This means that from the moment of conception, a pregnant woman is a different class of person in Ireland. Pregnant women are subject then to a different form of state intervention in continued pregnancy, just as in abortion. Women become second-class citizens. It is an apartheid. As a nation, we are aware of the impact of the 8th Amendment on access to abortion services. Midwives for Choice welcome legislation for abortion services to be made available in the Republic of Ireland. But we remain largely blissfully ignorant of the impact of the 8th in continued pregnancy. This includes the very significant possibility of forced medical intervention. The fetal right to life empowers medical staff to override women's informed choices. with or without a court order. And more recently, we have seen the case where the HSE versus B, which was Geraldine Williams, who did not want a C-section. She was brought to court where her fetus was represented separately in court from its mother. That is because we have the 8th Amendment in place. Also, the judge ruled that no, she did not have to have this C-section. The words that were used when bringing this case to court were that reasonable or proportionate force or restraint could be used on this woman to force her to have major surgery because of the 8th Amendment. During Ireland's human rights examination in February 2017 in Geneva, the United Nations Women's Committee, CEDAW, called on the government to ensure that women can access maternity services that do not use artificial means to accelerate labour and that respect the normal birth process, describing Ireland's system of maternity care as one that transformed the most important experience of a lifetime for women and their partners into a production line process. Active management of labour is the induction, the insisting on post-dates induction if you are over 40, induction. We can be quite suggestive as healthcare professionals. You know, we can seek for consent in a coercive manner because we are aware that we are working on this, you know, conveyor belt system. We can coerce people into giving consent for us to break their waters, for example. You know, we could say, well, the baby might die. For me to actually break somebody's waters, I have to physically insert my hand into their vagina and insert an amnio hook, which is quite long, has a little end on it like a crochet hook, to break somebody's waters. Now, doing that without somebody's consent, that is a violation. And coerced consent or bullied consent is not consent. The Commissioner for Human Rights of the Council of Europe, in his report on the Irish Maternity Services, stressed that pregnant women and adolescent girls are entitled to receive care that is respectful of their human rights, dignity and autonomy, expressing concern about the consequences for women in childbirth of protecting the right to life of the unborn on an equal basis with the right to life of the pregnant woman. The Commissioner highlighted the common practice by hospitals of invoking the 8th Amendment with threat of or actual court order to force women to comply with medical decision-making about their care and treatment with which they do not agree. This has got to change. Interventions can include, as I've already mentioned, post-date induction. Women might insist, I did myself when my first child, that the hospital had my dates wrong. I knew my dates. I went into labour myself, as it turned out, but my dates were right. Testimony from women surveyed both by AIMS Ireland and by Midwives for Choice have shown that women often feel coerced, threatened or bullied into compliance. So importantly, under the 8th Amendment, they have no option then for legal recourse. Outside of continued pregnancy, the 8th Amendment impacts on a woman's entitlement to abortion and to abortion aftercare. We are already aware of one Irish woman who died following an abortion in the UK. We see them when they come back only battered and bruised and upset and ill and tired if they come back into ED in the maternity hospitals. Some are too afraid to. Some crawl around their houses on their hands and knees in horrific pain. Although travelling to the UK for abortion is legal, many women are terrified to present to A&E departments or to admit to their GPs or healthcare providers that they have indeed travelled to the UK for an abortion. This has got to change. The people taking the tablets at home every single day, putting themselves at risk, we need to be caring for them. I'm not doing my job properly. I am failing these people. And I, as a healthcare professional, I didn't come into nursing for this. This is not nursing to me. This is being exclusive, leaving people outside. There can't be anybody left behind. The 8th Amendment must be removed. Our bodies must be removed from the Constitution. Abortion aftercare and abortion falls within the remit of midwifery. At a clinical level, it creates an environment of fear for women who, for instance, may have taken this abortion pill. So what do they do when they're really sick and they're bleeding heavily? Where do they go? Because they might get 14 years in prison. Our colleagues need to be aware of these people, and these people need to feel safe to be able to present to A&E departments without a risk of 14 years in prison hanging over their heads. An environment of fear and non-disclosure in women is just not one we can continue with. The referendum about the 8th Amendment isn't just about abortion. It's about making sure that future generations of Irish women will not become second-class citizens by becoming pregnant. It is about untying the hands of the healthcare professionals who want to care for the population entire and want to provide the best evidence-based care for this population in their own country. Trust people, trust doctors, midwives and nurses, and repeal for better birth